Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking to you whilst holding my brand new baby. So I'm doing this video from the hospital room just because I know that I had so many questions myself as to what to expect if you're having a C-section. So as most of you already know, I recently had a baby, and if you can tell from the background, I'm currently in hospital. And I'm doing this video because I know a lot of you were like me and had a lot of questions about what to expect when you're having a C-section. So this is, let me see, day 5 after my C-section. So I have a 5-day-old who is currently on the other side of this screen. I'm just holding with one hand and doing this video. And you might hear some fussing in the background, but that's okay. So basically, oh, right on time. All right, so in terms of what to expect, I'm going to go through what my process was like, but obviously things can differ depending on where you live. So I live in Australia, and what kind of potential insurance you have. So things might change depending on where you live. I live in Australia, for example, and it might depend on what kind of insurance you have. I have private health insurance, so I'm at a private hospital. So in terms of what to expect, the day of my surgery, C-section surgery, was a Wednesday. So the day before, I got a call telling me what time to be here, what time the actual C-section was going to be, as well as what time to start fasting. So I had to start fasting at least 6 hours, no food, no drink before the surgery. So my C-section was scheduled for 2 p.m. And so I started fasting from that morning. Once we arrived at the hospital, for us, step one was we did COVID-19 testing, which was basically filling a questionnaire saying that we haven't been to any of the Australian hotspots for coronavirus, and that we don't exhibit any of the symptoms, etc., etc. We sign that, and then they take our temperature. So my husband and I did that, and we don't have coronavirus, and so we went into the maternity ward and checked in. So they took us to our room where they let us know that this would be the room where we'd be recovering, so we could make the room our own and just get settled in. So my husband went and brought our suitcases from the car, so we each just brought one little carry-on suitcase with our stuff in it. And if you want to know what I brought with me, I can do that via a separate video. But basically we just kept it minimal and just each had one little suitcase with what we thought we'd need for a potential week-long stay at the hospital. We weren't sure. It could be anywhere between 3 to 7 days is what we were told. And so because of my medical situation, and so we weren't sure how many nights we'd be here, so we just packed for about a week. So in terms of the room itself, so as you can see, I'm in the room where they took us to, and this is where I've been for the past 5 days. So basically what they do is they get you, so step 2, I guess, once you're all checked in, is they get you to change into your surgical gown. So I changed my surgical gown, and they gave some scrubs to my husband so that he could change into that and be in the surgery with me. And then we basically just went through a bunch of administrative things. So in terms of, checking what weight I was, what height I am, so that the right amount of information could be given to the anesthetist and things like that. So we went through all of that, and then I was wheeled from this bed down to the surgery down the hall. So down the hall, we wait outside the actual surgical room, and the anesthetist came outside and basically talked to us about what to expect from the spinal. And for the spinal, the rule here, and I understand for a lot of places, is that you can't have anyone in the room with you for the spinal, so my husband could come in for that. And so the anesthetist asked me if there's anything that I needed, given that my husband wouldn't be in the room, and I explained that I had severe anxiety, and so silence would freak me out, and so if she could just, tell me her life story, or just get someone babbling so that, oh, hold on, you got it. So I just basically asked her to, if someone could keep babbling so that I, wouldn't get freaked out, and just keep me distracted, basically, because the silence is scary. So basically, she did that. I went into the room in that surgical gown. That's all I was wearing, absolutely nothing other than the surgical gown. And they take that off you. So you're sitting naked on a table, and they get you to lean forward, and they start doing what they need to your spine to insert the needle to do the spinal block. Because they were concentrating on what they were doing, there was silence. And so for me, because of my anxiety, which many of you know about, I immediately started crying, just silently, just started crying just because I was overwhelmed with the situation. And so one of the nurses saw me, and the anesthetist reminded her that I needed something to fill the silence. And so she was very kind and did exactly what I asked, which was tell me her life story. Was talking about, you know, where she lives and what kind of pet she was thinking of buying. And then all of us started talking about, you know, pet names and funny pet names that people have, and the dangers of when your kids, you know, name your pets and things like that. So just basically started distracting me from the actual spinal. I can say the spinal for me didn't really hurt. I mean, it felt like a pinch, and there's like 30 to 60 seconds of pressure on my back, but that's what it felt like, pressure, not pain. Right before they put in the spinal, right before I went to the surgical room, they'd put in a cannula in my hand, you know, for IVs and things like that. I always hate those more. I find that more painful. So, you know, the cannula compared to the surgical thing, both of which are minor pain, was pretty much the extent of pain for that process. So that really wasn't that bad. I know some people's spinal doesn't go as easy as that, but for me it was basically a nothing. So once they put the spinal in, it works pretty much right away. You'll feel almost everything except for your toes go numb. And so everything went numb for me, and they got me to lay down right away on the surgical table, and then started putting up the like sheet covering, you know, my upper half and my lower half, and started prepping my lower half for the surgery. And the anesthetist started prepping for the anesthesia near my head. So she was doing her thing, my obstetrician was doing his thing, and that is when they brought in my husband. So they put in a chair right next to my head, and my hands were free, so he could hold my hands. So he was holding my hands, and basically, because I guess this is so routine to them, they basically just got started. So by the time my husband had sat down and held my hands, they started, and you could feel basically like someone's rummaging inside you. Like imagine you're a handbag and you're rummaging around inside me. Like it felt like rummaging. So no pain, no super uncomfortable pressure. It was just rummaging. It was just a weird sensation of someone searching around. Within about maybe 2 minutes, we heard baby crying. And so we could hear him as he came out. And they tried to lift him above the sheet so that we could see him right away. But all I could see was the angle. Oh, yeah, you. All I could see was the angle of his butt. And so all I got a view of as my first glimpse of my baby was him pooing. So he was in the midst of the poo when he was born. So that's what my first glimpse of Bub was. So they immediately said, oh my gosh, he's pooing. And so they took him away. And then basically, at that point, your spouse, your partner can go along with them while they do the baby checks and wipe the baby up and stuff like that. But my husband stayed with me whilst they did that, since it was quite busy in the room. So he was kind enough and kept holding my hand, because then that part was actually a little bit scarier for me in terms of after the baby's out, because then they have to do the, scooping out of whatever's in your uterus and the placenta and just all that kind of thing. So there's quite a bit of cleaning in you that's going on after that. So that part was, I felt like I was being shaken on the table. Like there's quite a bit of rummaging. There's quite a bit of searching around inside me. Like I could feel that there was a lot happening. No pain again and no pressure, but it just felt like more rummaging. So that process took about 10 to 15 more minutes. And luckily in that time, which would be quite long, the baby is given to you. So they handed the baby to my husband and to me. They offered to me, but just because of the angle, I gave him back to my husband, just because I don't want to accidentally drop him or something. And so my husband was holding him, and because they told him that he could take pictures during the entire process, but my husband hadn't taken any photos, one of the nurses asked him if he wanted a photo, and so she took a very, very lovely first family photo of us in the surgery room, which I'll insert here. And basically, that was the first picture we had of Bub that day. And it was just a really beautiful moment. Like, it was just so nice to have that distraction of looking at baby while they finished, you know, sewing me back up with whatever stitches they were doing. And then it was done. So that was the C-section. So basically, once they finished up, they took baby, I believe, in a bassinet, like a wheel surgical bassinet, next to me, and I stayed in my bed. And then they wheeled us both to the recovery room. So in the recovery room, my husband, again, was still with me, and Bub was with me, and they immediately, once they got me settled into the recovery area, they put baby, I believe, on top of me almost right away, so that we did skin to skin almost immediately. So within, you know, a few minutes of him being born, he was on my chest doing skin to skin. And I believe breastfeeding. I actually can't quite remember what happened within those minutes. I remember he was on me, and I remember people kept asking me if I was dizzy, which I was, and I remember people offering me water, and I was very thirsty because at that point I hadn't had anything for a whole day. No food, no water. So someone was giving me water, and someone was helping me hold the baby on my skin. And then once they worked out that my blood pressure had stabilized, which is what we were waiting for, that was apparently causing the dizziness, they then wheeled us back to this room. So that was the whole process. So from start to finish, like I said, the actual time in the surgical room was pretty quick. I'd say if it started at, you know, we started late because there was an emergency one before us. So I think if we started about 3, Bobby was born right after 3, and I was probably out of there by 3:30, and then back in this room by 4. So pretty quick process. So that was the C-section itself. In terms of recovery, so like I said, today is day 5 for me. So day 5, I can tell you that I am picking, you know, as this arm has been busy this entire video, I've been picking Bubby up and holding him and walking around with him. I've been able to walk around since day 2. They really recommend that starting day 2, you get up and move. I highly recommend that as well. But the longer you wait, the more stiff you get and the more painful it is. The medication they have you on really kind of preemptively prevents you from sitting around in too much pain. So there's a lot of inflammatories and Panadol and various drugs. I don't know. I take like a various cocktail, different kind of cocktail, various cocktails of drugs each day. So I'm not quite sure specifically what I'm having, but whatever they've been giving me has been working because I'm on day 5 and I'm just taking normal medication now, no heavy painkillers, so which I was the first 3 days. So in terms of the recovery, so day 1, so the first evening and night, you can't move, so I stayed in bed that entire time because your legs are still coming back to normal. They were like dead weights. I couldn't do much with them. And it would have been probably too painful to move anyways. And you have, I forgot to mention, in the surgical room right before they started the C-section, they also inserted a catheter after they put the spinal block in. The catheter, obviously, because you can no longer control your bowels. So the catheter was in me that first night. So the catheter came out of me on the 2nd day. So the 2nd day, when they took out the catheter, they immediately took out the catheter on the morning after my surgery and had someone come and help me stand, which was painful, and help me get to the shower. So they had me go to the bathroom and they had me go for a shower. Sitting in the shower, there's a shower chair, and basically just kind of helped me with that movement for the first day. So that was pretty much all I could manage for that first day. That basically took all my energy. And then, which is all they really expect. They just want to make sure you're up. That's all the expectation is, up and moving to make sure you can get to the bathroom, because since they're taking out your catheter, they want to make sure you're able to go safely to and from the bathroom. So went to the bathroom a couple of times that day, and with the help of my husband, just to make sure I didn't like pass out on the way there. And then the day after, it got easier and easier. It basically just feels like, for me, it just feels like a little bit of a burning, since like imagine your scar is like a smiley face, and so up of that curve, it just feels like a slightly burning sensation along it. So not horrific pain, but it's definitely painful. And like I said, by day 3 wasn't even super noticeable. So all in all, it's a pretty straightforward recovery. I mean, if this is day 5 and I'm walking down the hall and wandering around, I think by 2 weeks I'll feel pretty much fairly back to normal. And so in terms of pain, that's what I would say to expect in terms of that. It's different for everyone, but definitely, you know, do what works best for you. But moving, I think, is really key to make sure you don't get, you know, things like uncomfortably fusing to each other. As long as you keep moving, things will stay where they need to be. So that was the process. So hopefully that was informative in terms of what to expect for a C-section. I definitely recommend you join Facebook groups like, I can't remember the name of the one I'm in, but I think it's like C-section births or C-section babies. And it basically just has like everyone, you know, posting their experience or what they're worried about, and other women talking them through what their experience was like. So you have that kind of support group of women who've either been through the process or going to go through the process, and know what you're going through. All right, so I have a fussy baby, so I gotta go. All right, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video was helpful. And if you have other questions about either the C-section process or the pregnancy process, or, you know, what to expect in your first few days of having a bub, feel free to comment down below, and I'll do a video like that, because I'm going to be sitting here with Bub for the foreseeable future while we get used to each other. And so thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye!